It's that time of the year for cinephiliacs, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for me to reflect 2019 of all the movies I have seen and collect my thoughts, recap a little bit of all the best and the worst movies I have seen. But for now, we're gonna talk about the best movies of the year. A little bit of a hindsight on the whole year is that this year was an okay year for movies, although a little bit underwhelming because I kind of begin to see that Hollywood is still kind of missing the spark what make good movie making. I've seen Disney falling out on certain traps, and also we got a little bit of the streaming monster that is surging. But nevertheless, I still enjoy watching movies on the big screen. I think that's the best way to watch movies. So anyway, I'm gonna keep this short and let's go on. I'm gonna go on with of course the usual list that I do every year, and I'm gonna tell you that my pick for the 10 best movies of the year are usually based on my opinion, my artistic integrity, a little bit of semi-professionalism because I don't want to be my opinions to be very selfish. And there's some things that are gonna differ a little bit from each one of them. But of course, this is mine. Of course, one rule of thumb, by the way: no Netflix movies, no streaming movies, because I don't consider them basically the best way to consider them, well, movies. Movies should be watched on the big screen where you can feel it, not in a tiny computer or in the television or something like that. So I'm sorry, people, if you're not gonna see The Irishman in the list. But let it be known that I only saw one Netflix film that I just realized that it came out in theaters, but only for limited theaters, which they shouldn't have done that. So I'm gonna give at least a golden commemoration to Klaus because of his great animation, great story that brought me, and probably I'll say is one of the best Christmas movies I have seen for a long time. But I'm not gonna go too much into detail because you can see my thoughts about on my Christmas special. And also I want to reiterate saying that a little bit of the list I had to make a little bit of few last minute changes because of something unexpected happening a little while ago. And also I'm gonna apologize if you're gonna see a little bit more mainstream movies instead of the usual Oscar baits or something like that. Out that I did. So I'm sorry if I didn't watch, for example, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or The Lighthouse, probably Here Comes the Neighborhood, which there are movies that I did wanted to watch, but I didn't organize myself. I didn't have time. I'm delaying so much. So, but like always, I gotta start out with the honorary mentions. Three of course. So let's begin. My first honorary mention is Pokemon Detective Pikachu. This is kind of rare for me because it's always a big speculation by saying that whenever you make a video game based movie, when there are live action actors playing video game characters, they always come with the curse of saying that this movie is going to be destined to flop, to be pretty bad critically. And in a way, still, I was so curious to watch that movie First of all, because despite anything, I do have a soft spot for Pokemon. I grew up with Pokemon since I was in high school. I still play the games. Although I kinda over the face of the anime series. I'm still kind of curious about it. And again, I still play the games. And the Detective Pikachu game, while I haven't played it, I know that it is a letdown of a game. But still, people at Nintendo wanted to milk that series so much that they decided to make it the movie. And to put it shortly, I enjoy it. The CGI on the Pokemon looks great. Not exactly, too realistic in some, not too creepy like others. So in a way, it was basically a fun time, watching all these Easter eggs. And Ryan Reynolds as the Detective Pikachu did a magnificent job, I'll say. But unfortunately, I couldn't put it on the top of the list, mostly because I'll say that the story was a little bit clunky, it's a little bit too safe, and the live action actors suck. I wasn't too fond of Justice Smith, I'll say. I'm not saying that he's technically a bad actor, but something when he gave out this creepy smile, even on the trailers, kind of bothered me a lot. And also we got, of course, the girl who was so pointless into the movie. But other than that, another thing why it didn't make it on the list is that how dare you that you don't show Lopunny or Primarina, which is some of my favorite Pokemon. I mean, they even missed the chance to make Lopunny is too sexy for a Pokemon joke. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit risque, but you know what? That's the risk. Sometimes when you take risk, the better. But okay, I'm stretching this. My second honorary mention is Brightburn. What would you do if Superman became bad? Or the origins is that he was always been bad. Well, you get Brightburn, and I will say that it was really interesting. I did came out, enjoying this horror film in which they took the Superman formula and twisted it, but at the same time, it is not exactly 100% Superman. Well, it is. It's actually this kid from another planet, which apparently they're parasites / mosquitoes. Which this is the barely I can remember, and then wreaks havoc. I was really thrilled on that, and in some parts you could tell that the kid being very good in this movie. Yeah, he comes up as not only in part way sympathetic, but also part way scary. Especially when he finally shows his true colors and when you finally realize about everything. Oh, and also I want to reiterate that the costume for the Brightburn is awesome. I really like that awesome costume. So that was enough at least to give it an honorary mention for it. It's not a perfect movie, and I don't think that not all of them are gonna love this movie like I did. My third honorary mention, this one's gonna be a little bit questionable for a few people, is The Kid Who Will Be King. This is one of those where the trailer made me think that, oh my god, it's gonna be another one of those British safe children movies, and they're not gonna take it seriously. And I was dreading it because I like Arthurian legend. I mean, I had my scar from King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. But then, after I watch it, it came out decent. It came out decent, and I just kind of gained a soft spot out of it. It's a movie with flaws, I understand, but you can tell that they really put a little bit more effort than they usually do for a movie of higher demographic, and when they treat the Arthurian legend like that's children's storybook. Well, this one did, but you can see that they tried some layers. Like for example, the relationship between our main character and the bully, which honestly, I will normally in these kind of stories they always have the bully to get what he deserves. Which I prefer most like that because I hate bullies, or sometimes I do, but I do also hate stories in which they just put the bully and he enjoys without a reason, kind of like this bully from Phineas and Ferb, in which he doesn't deserve anything. But this one they did manage to put some layers and kind of show some obstacles that they have to get along for a bigger cause. Another thing that I like is that there is this father arc usually it might go for the Disney route or the Hallmark route, which I'm not gonna reveal exactly. It actually goes a little bit deeper that is heart-wrenching. But I will have to say a few little hiccups that this movie has is probably, the main villain's one-noteness. The climax stretches a little bit too much. And the story is pretty simple. But this one is still simple enough to have a little bit of a fantasy story involving Excalibur. And it has also one of the funniest Merlins you're gonna see in this movie. And with that, those are my honorary mentions. And now, let's start out the official list. Starting with number 10, which I give it to Dr. Sleep. I'm not a fan of these kind of movies where, they make sequels to bring out a new generation. Because sometimes we prefer, our original characters, and I wish our stories become timeless. But nowadays, they always try to, to show that characters can grow even on age, and sometimes they come out, even decrepit or wrinkled, which it kind of kills, in which it kind of feels a little bit mean, because it happens in real life, but the benefit of storytelling is that it can go through over the years and let other people, make your own imagination. But rarely in the case, I kind of like what they did. In the case of Dr. Sleep, I had no hope about it because I thought The Shining, the movie, ended well where it was, and we didn't need a sequel. And when I heard that the sequel was gonna be done, I was like, I can't believe they did it. Until I did realize that Stephen King did wrote that sequel years ago. And then when I watched it, it wasn't that bad, I'll say. I actually came out liking the direction that it went to. I like the acting. I like how it built the pieces of the movie. I like the direction where it went. The villains are in a way, well, let's say that it's kind of like a mixture of whimsical and scary. And this movie also had probably one of the most disturbing child kills I have ever seen in a movie. Yep, a child gets killed there, and it's really disturbing. I like the arc of the characters. I like even the child acting of which is kind of rare in these kind of movies. Although it is lower on the list, mostly because of a little bit of what they were intended to do. First of all, the movie thinks that it wanted to create a sequel to both the book and the movie, considering that Stephen King didn't like the Stanley Kubrick's version that they did. So it wanted to appease both worlds, in which it kind of comes off a little bit, clunky. It doesn't feel like it wants to know which side to pick on. And also some elements would feel a little bit pointless. The climax was great until the ending. I'm not exactly 100% agreeable with how it ended. So, but still it gave me a certain impact for Dr. Sleep to be my number 10. Number 9, this one I feel like you're gonna raise your eyebrow and you're really thinking, why is it there? So I gave my number 9 to Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I know what you're thinking. This movie shouldn't be on the best of the list. It should be on the worst of the list. I've seen many people putting it on Godzilla, the King of the Monster, to the worst of the list. Well, let me explain why at least I gave it at least a number 9. Because this movie kind of gave me one of the best experiences of movie watching. Yeah, I sound a little bit biased because, well, I sound biased, but at least I want to keep it like this. I saw this movie while I was when I was in Tokyo, and it kind of feels, interesting when you're an American and you know about Godzilla enough to go to Tokyo and watch a Godzilla movie in its hometown. I know that this Godzilla movie is an American movie, and yeah, I do agree with many people. It's a stupid plot. It's a stupid movie. It has stupid characters. They make stupid decisions. But you know what? That's basically a Godzilla movie. It's not gonna top off being, the best Godzilla movie ever. But I did like some of the stuff that happens. I like some, for example, the element that not all parents are, they make the stupidest decision, even though they do it for the greater good. Although I wish they could have polished it a little bit on the end. Godzilla doesn't look too bad. I like the atmosphere. I like the monsters, and I gotta say, Godzilla and King Ghidorah, and Mothra and Rodan, they look awesome. And watching it on a big screen, it is a great spectacle. So I just enjoy it more as a popcorn flick. Pretty much my own popcorn flicks. So I don't think this movie is that bad as many people say. But at least I gotta thank it for the experience. My number 8 is Shazam! Oh man. The movie that DC Universe needed. Most of the DC Universe movies, they always come out as being gritty, dark, and I get it. They want to capitalize on the success of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. But unfortunately, this DC Cinematic Universe really ended up with a really bad start. I mean, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, just Suicide Squad, Justice League. But ever since, Wonder Woman and Aquaman, it shows that it can be done well. It can be done good. But yeah, but the problem is that that includes, of course, this one, Shazam, is that it still wants to hold on to that shitty cinematic universe. It's a bad start. It's a bad base. So please redo Man of Steel, but not give us another alternative to remove those movies out of my mind and retcon it, because they don't deserve, because these bad movies doesn't deserve to be acknowledged. But back to Shazam. What I meant that's the kind of DC movie that it needed is that, unlike the other movies, this one felt kind of like a 90s superhero movie, but in the fun way, and makes us think why we love superhero movies, even though it is a basic origin plot. And it does well with the characters. It does well with the characters. You like Billy Baxton. You like the family that he gets adopted with. There's kind of like a sense of humor, a childish sense of humor, to see a kid who gets the powers of a superhero and use it in childish ways until he gets it a little bit over his head. But you also notice that, yeah, he's not a bad kid. He's just having, his issues. And I like, of course, the arc that he goes through, which in a way is kind of similar to the kid, what was it? The kid who will be king. Although a little bit done better. The villain may be a little bit cartoonish, but it has a good motivation. And all in all, it's really fun. It is a fun movie. Again, I only wish that it could escape that shitty cinematic universe. But in the end, this is a lightning in the bottle that I'm willing to catch. And my next one is number 7. And this number 7 also is a little bit biased. It's How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. And I put it there simply because like I said it in a few previous videos, is that I'm a fan of How to Train Your Dragon. It's my favorite DreamWorks franchise, mostly because of dragons, and I'm a big sucker for dragons. I could marry one if I could. That's how exaggerated I exaggerate. So the Hidden World, it has almost all the elements to not be on the list. The premise is pretty basic. Some of the jokes are pretty basic. Some people might thought that it's not a great movie, but you know what? Who cares? I love the franchise, and I think that they did a great job with this one. Mostly because the franchise of How to Train Your Dragon is one of those DreamWorks movies that it relies really less from pop culture, and it trying to create its own story based on Vikings and dragons in a fantastical way. I mean, ever since the first movie, I really loved the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless. And considering that I'm also a fan of Chris Sanders, who created Lilo and Stitch, you could tell why I was mesmerized with this one. And The Hidden World, I think it is a great cap on this, on the series. It brings out, the culmination of Hiccup's growth now as the chief, and he has to do, the biggest challenge of releasing the dragons to a safe area, and of course this one introduces the Light Fury, which the Light Fury and Toothless, they're adorable when they're together. I still want to know if they gave the Light Fury an official name, and it didn't. It did culminate with a satisfying ending that is both heartbreaking but at the same time hopeful, which then it leads up to the special How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming. I feel sad that they decided to end the How to Train Your Dragon films, but it was an experience. So that was for me enough to give it my for me it being the one of my best animated movies of the year. Now that I think of it, it is my personal favorite animated movie of the year. Apart from Klaus, of course, but Klaus, again, is Netflix. But with that said, this is why this movie soared high into the sky. Shall we continue then? My number 6 is Spider-Man Far From Home. This was a little bit of a tough one for me. Considering when I watched my list and all this stuff, I like I said, I saw lots of mainstream movies compared to rare movies this year. And while I was putting on the list, I know that many people will say that this shouldn't also belong on the list. But bear with me saying that at least what this movie got me is how fun it was. I mean, we're talking about Spider-Man. He is basically one of the fan favorites of the Marvel industry. And well, this one kind of shows us a little bit of hope that maybe they can continue a little bit longer with the Marvel Cinematic Universe after another movie that probably is gonna be on the list. But still, yeah. I will actually could say that this is another one of the best Spider-Man movies ever since the Spider-Man acquisition from Sony, and it shows. It shows that once again they show that they're treating Spider-Man the way it is in both. I mean, it's not exactly 100% faithful to the lore, but it is done. It do its own thing well enough, to actually have a forgiving soft spot for it. And by the way, I consider this movie better than the time in which Spider-Man went to China. That was an old movie. But okay. So we have again Tom Holland doing great as Spider-Man. We have some interesting camera work, an interesting story, and we also have an interesting villain, which gave us kind of like one of the best mindfuck scenes in cinema this year. So I can't complain. I can't complain too much about this one. I know that and I like the story arc that Peter Parker goes in this arc, considering the events from the last film. And also I really enjoy the cameo that appeared during the mid-credit scene. So because of that, I will say that this one swings by, at least to be part of the list. But it's still good enough at least to be part of my list. Well, continuing on is number 5, which kind of shows that there is promise to Jordan Peele. Yep, I'm talking about Us. Us is, I feel kind of proud of it, because thanks to this movie, it made me push to make probably one of the toughest challenge I did on editing. Because I do this as a hobby, but it was a great challenge to me to finally duplicate myself. And I'm actually really proud of what I did during my review of Us. But I'm not reviewing my own stuff. I'm reviewing Us. Jordan Peele strikes again with a movie that shows that is about doppelgangers. That it's really scary to know that probably somewhere around the world you kind of gonna meet someone who is too similar to you. And imagine getting pushing this creepy level when you think that these doppelgangers are there to take you over. Which basically, that's what the mythology of doppelgangers do. They imitate you and tries to kill you so they can take your place. And they did it well. It combines both creepiness and also a little bit of a comedy. The characters are the main characters are of course likable. The villains are again, they're disturbing in their agenda. Most of them, they talk like, what? Oh man, and remember, there is one, the kid, of course, the kid with a mask. That's disturbing, and their main weapons being scissors is, oh jeez, now that I think about it. Although, I do agree that the movie can be a little bit predictable, especially in the end. But I think this is a predictability that it only works only for people who have seen horror movies, way too much. Like me. I have experience with that, so I kind of see it coming, but it doesn't affect me in a way, because I do understand. But it is a well-made movie that we do begin to respect Jordan Peele with it. And I liked also the social commentary that the movie has. It's not exactly too much in your face, like, like Get Out. Maybe it does, depending on your perspective. But, so anyway, this is enough to be part of the list, in which we see the evil on us. My number 4, speaking of evil, of course, number 4, I go for Ready or Not. When you thought that doppelgangers are the biggest threat in your life, imagine your in-laws. The story of a newlywed woman who she partakes in the tradition of the family where they must play a game, since she's the new to the family. They have to play a game that is sorted out by something. The game that they choose is hide and seek, and according to tradition, she must hide until noon, until morning, because then she must hide because the in-laws, even her new husband, are gonna kill her, because apparently they do this ritual in order to conserve their fortune, and of course they're fearing that if the tribute is not done until a time limit, they're gonna die. This is a really thrilling movie. You can't help but to root the main character, because she's likable. She is in a situation that she can't technically have too much control over her. She has trouble because she's in a situation in which you don't know who to trust. But also the kind of like the glue of the movie is that our villains, which is pretty much like these white-collar rich people who they're interested on their fortune, and they kind of love/hate each other, but still they have to cooperate on trying to get our main lead. And unlike many movies in which the killers are basically all trained to use weaponry, they are very stealthy on like usual killers do in these kind of movies. This one kind of pushes by showing that they're kind of inept to the point that sometimes they even harm themselves in the process, or, well, for lack of better words, kill each other in the process. And so pretty much you kind of see that even the most incompetent of killers can also be considered a threat in a way. another thing that this movie kind of holds up is that there is this interesting dynamic of brothers. One of them being the groom. That could sound like the groom, I'll say, and the brother who both kind of have a history with with the story. They both have kind of like different opinions about it. There is kind of like a character development and character destruction in both of these characters that makes this movie feel fresh. And also, this movie has one of the best payoff of this year. The only clue I'll give it to you, you haven't seen this movie, is that the movie just kind of keeps in suspense, thinking that maybe the whole ritual thing is all bullshit. At this point, you might predict that. You might predict the outcome, but either way, predictable or not, the payoff is amazing. Is the best payoff you could ever see, and I highly recommend you to watch this movie if you haven't seen it. No matter if you're ready or not, because here it goes with the next one on the list. Number 3. Remember that I told you that there was a big event while I was talking about Spider-Man? Well, yeah, that big event, I was talking none other than Avengers Endgame. Oh man, this was the culmination of many years of movie development of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It has its ups, it has its downs, but they made it. They finally made it. This was the moment in which if you were kind of this veteran who watched this Marvel Cinematic Universe from the beginning, and you've seen all these things building up, it kind of feels like, an uncle seeing their nephew growing up for the culmination, like graduation in this case. Ah man, this thing was so big that it took me days to finally get a ticket, and it was all worth it. Yeah, and this is the reason why I like going to the movie theaters. When you're surrounded by passionate fans, and you can hear, the excitement, the horror, the epicness of a grand event that we were waiting for years. Especially with the big surprise and the big, well, I wouldn't say letdown, but the big heartbreak that we got last year with Infinity Wars. And for a finale of a chapter of veterans, they did a great job in closing up, the chapter of our veteran heroes, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. It culminates also, with one of the biggest battles there is. I know, and yeah, many people will say that the story has kind of like a slow pace, but I still mostly think of it, like just a build-up. Not much happens because they're just building up to a solution that feels impossible, but shows that it could be done. But of course, not without sacrifices. And I think it did. And I think it did. And remember that I said that usually I don't like it, when old generations grow up, to leave to the new generations. This one does manage to give itself a pass for that. It was such an emotional journey that I couldn't help but to put it really, really high on the list. Actually becoming one of my top 3 best movies of the year. But we have 2 more to go. My number 2 and my number 1 spot, they kind of battle against each other, kind of like in the last minute. But nevertheless, I had to make a decision. So my number 2 spot for best movie of the year is Joker. Joker. Talk about a movie that tries to ignore that there was a cinematic universe. And in a way, I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that this is a movie separate from the cinematic universe, but still acknowledges. This is one of those movies that it feels like a tribute to one of the greatest villains in comic book history, which is none other than the Joker. I mean, we know its origins in The Killing Joke. Although, to the benefit of the doubt, the Killing Joke it's still debatable if it is true or not. But it's the closest thing to know that what this happened was actually true. The origins of both Batman and the Joker can be interpreted in many ways, and it has been written in many ways. Some of them comes off as more interesting than the other. And in this case, the movie has our main character, not Jack Napier. He wasn't called Jack Napier in this case. They portrayed him as a down in the mill man who tries to become a comedian, but lots of bad things begins to happen. He lives with a delusional mother, and well, people see him, begins to treat him very badly, and he begins to show, he begins to have a grudge against, the society that doesn't treat him well. The doctors doesn't technically do a good job with him, and then one day things go from bad to worse, and until he finally explodes, and then after he murders a couple of rich people, it springs out a series of events that pretty much brings the man down the rabbit hole, and he drags Gotham City with him until he finally turns into again one of the greatest villains of comic book history. My God, this was great. Joaquin Phoenix really, really deserves an Oscar nomination, or probably win the Oscar portraying the Joker, which kind of makes it a little bit scary, considering that Heath Ledger was also nominated and won, portraying the same character, the Joker, in a different way. And what makes it scary is that how we get fascinated by a murderous clown. This is what makes this character fascinating, and in this case, it's amazing. I was technically kind of disturbed, but at the same time, I was kind of balancing myself, saying that why I'm rooting for a character like that, because I know that he becomes a killer, but you kind of begin to feel bad for the things that happen to him until he finally breaks. This is technically kind of like a social commentary, if I overanalyze it, about how society sometimes can break a man, and how a man, even when he thinks to do for himself, kind of begins to drag down everything surrounding it. And it's all due to a series of mishaps. I also really like that this is one of those few movies, or probably one of the few entertainment media of the Batman universe, in which it doesn't portray the Waynes in a positive light. You know, you see Bruce Wayne's father, you know, being, you know, trying his best, but still kind of a little bit arrogant in a way. And technically he just sees a plea of desperate help, like, you know, like a threat, which in a way is normal. It's normal, you know, to react like that, but still you see Thomas Wayne, you know, not being, you know, the idyllic noble rich man you see from him. Although, if I have to nitpick a little bit, again, this movie should have not included Bruce Wayne. Because it will make you think that, yeah, yeah, then how he's gonna become an arch nemesis of the kid. But either way, Joker is a fantastic film, and I highly recommend it. That is until recently I saw the movie that took the spot. And I felt bad because I just watched this movie recently. It's a movie that I did kind of manage to make kind of like a last-ditch effort this year to, because I've been hearing a lot about this movie. And once I watch it, I had no choice but to put that my best movie of 2019 is 1917. 1917 made me think of what is so fascinating on war movies, especially the World War movies, either the first one or the second one. Why there's a lot of movies out of it? Well, maybe it's because these are some of the biggest tragedies of human history in the you know, in warfare, and the stories that comes out are technically interesting, whether being fictional, whether being biographical, or both. And every time when people decide, you know, to bring out this, in a way it makes me feel bad that it's kind of exploitive. But in the same sense, it kind of let people, you know, explore the cinematic, the cinematic capabilities when you use theme like that. Like, obviously people will say that, yeah, it's a typical war is bad. Sometimes they don't show that part of it, and this is not that movie. This movie doesn't show exactly that war is bad. It is basically just a simple premise of two guys getting a mission and going to save the 1600 comrades. But what makes this movie worth it, and what makes it the best, is that it's not exactly, you know, the story. This is an experience. And this is all things that the movie decided to go into the Birdman cinematography, in which everything is shot in one shot. It's always fascinating how these movies are shot. I mean, there are many times that, you know, the actor has to take a break to see the lines and all this stuff, but it is hard to pinpoint when there's the cut. But this movie kind of have a moment in which it cheats itself, but I can't get mad at it, because the whole experience, it makes you feel like you're there. It is thrilling. This scenery, you see, you know, what the things that they have to go through, even for a mission, to avoid many people, you know, to die, It kind of makes you root for the character to go there, even though they have you know very little of them, and that's how usually these movies are supposed to be. A lot of the, you know, soldiers of war, they do incredible things, but we barely know them. We barely know their name. They just do what they have to do. Even though it comes up with a high price in both you know, your surroundings and mentally, of course. And this one shows there are moments of cinematography that are brilliant, They're brilliant. The shot of darkness and the shot of light are great. The pacing is intense. It's thrilling. I just couldn't help but to absolutely love this film. So, I just saw this movie a little while ago, and I'm glad that I just saw it. It may have topped Joker. I was thinking of putting Joker at #1, but this one came out at the last minute that I had no choice. So in the end, I'll say that 1917 is my best movie of 2019. Well, those are my best movie of the year. So I'm glad that probably you could share my thoughts of what do I think about these great movies that I have seen this year, and I want to feel that we're gonna get better movies next year. But of course, first thing first, we must go to the other side.